Welcome to Valentina Design Universe. This is the perfect place where we can find people who live an artistic life or live in a very creative way. I am Valentina Cirasola, your host, and my guest in this show is a multifaceted artist. Her name is Claudia Gray, and we will have the pleasure to talk to her tonight. Welcome, Claudia. Welcome to the show.
Valentina, thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. I know you are, as I said in my introduction, you are a multifaceted artist. You do photography, you do glass work, you do painting. Was this your main idea when you were growing up, that this is what you were going to be as an adult? Or you just found this path along the way while you were doing something else?
Well, it's been a journey for sure. And I was remembering a story in 4th grade when I had a little Snoopy, some little toy. And I remember making bookmarkers for people in 4th grade, and then I would sell them for 5 cents. And
entrepreneurial already.
And I don't know why I did that, but I had to create something, and I wanted to share it. And as I remember back, I've always been creative. I've always taken something and turned it into something else. And the photography came when I was a freelance writer. So I would do my photojournalism, and lucky enough to be published in many publications, and that stayed with me. And of course, I was that pesky family photographer that just had to get that right shot.
Everyone.
They're like, no, it's good. But, you know, as a photographer, I always saw something that could have been, taken and changed. And so, and then all of a sudden, I started painting. I've painted for so many years, and I've always wanted to do it full time. But family came, and blessings there, and then I all of a sudden started with glass, and I could not paint. I was blocked. But then I think I really wasn't blocked in hindsight. For 5 years, glass got a hold of me, and those muses did not want me to do anything else but learn glass.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, I was complaining, but it didn't come back until recently. And now all I want to do is paint, paint, paint.
Yeah. So when I'm Italian, and so I have a high respect for glass or anything that comes from glass. Glass comes from sand. So basically, out of nothing, it becomes so beautiful. It is becoming so beautiful, created in many different shapes. What do you feel when you melt glass and when you kind of reduce it to submission, to your own will? What do you feel?
Well, glass has its own will, and you have to respect it.
Exactly.
So even though I try to make it into something that I want, like this wave, it will have its own interpretation of what it wants in the kiln. So of course that's where more technique comes in, where more experience comes in. But what it feels calming to me for whatever reason. When I cut glass, I'm very calm. And of course, it requires that you hyper focus, because otherwise you can hurt yourself, you can cut yourself.
Sure.
But it's a medium that demands respect. And I love that. I
feel some kind of mysticism every time I see not only workers around glass, but what glass itself creates. It feels like, I don't know if it's just me, because I'm used to be around, creation of glass from Murano, but I don't know, it feels like it's some kind of mysticism that transmits from the glass to me.
Yes, to me, I also think that it's a part of reincarnating the materials. So for instance, you have pieces and then all of a sudden they meld together, they form, and then comes out something new. And then perhaps it breaks.
Exactly.
Guess what? You can meld it together
and do it
and
again.
start again.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. I love glass. Absolutely love it. But so that's why you told me that when you paint, you listen to classical music, and when you do glasswork, you use the music from the Tibetan chanting, or is that why you feel you feel drawn to the glass in a mystical way? What's the connection between the Tibetan chanting and the glass?
Yes. So I'm deeply inspired by nature and by Eastern philosophy. I've had meditation and yoga in my life since my early 20s, and I've studied quite a bit of different spiritual practices, mainly Buddhism. And I am very drawn to the Tibetan monks chanting. It's just something that's deep inside me that when I hear it, just like when I hear the Hawaiian ancient chants, I get shivers, I get kind of like this, I don't know, internal feeling that it's good, it's calming. And so for me, it's almost like it goes together. I feel like my work sometimes is a meditation, and having the chanting in the background certainly facilitates that mood. But perhaps if I want to facilitate that mood, the chanting helps. So it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But I like to say it's all good. And
it melts together.
It melts together. And then also for me, I like to infuse a little bit of good juju, good energy into my pieces. And interestingly, sometimes people, when they pick up my ornaments or perhaps a piece of jewelry, they just start smiling and they might say, I really like this. And you know what? I think it could be because I try to put good energy into my work.
Yes. And it comes through because I can see here this wave with the top is like the foam out of the sea waves. It looks, I see the energy here.
You do?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I had fun making it.
Yeah. And so when you paint, you say you use classical music. So I'm sure your paintings, you feel the emotion on your paintings as well. What do they communicate? What your paintings communicate? Like, for instance, Renoir always depicted the relaxing French countryside. Renoir, no, that was Matisse. Renoir instead depicted the femininity of the upper class and also well-to-do people that could afford to go out and for a weekend. Picasso did mostly towards the end of his career was mostly social issue. What do your painting communicate to the viewers?
Well, right now, my paintings are focusing on nature. And I love nature. And I think it's evident in my photography, and it's now evident in my plein air paintings, where you go outdoors and you're in this fascinating, inspirational location.
Right.
And it just kind of infuses, again, a sort of love of beauty and abstraction. It doesn't have, my paintings are very loose, and so I think that I have fun with my paintings. So right now they're just probably capturing some of that just giddiness of being able to paint and being in nature.
Yeah.
And the colors, I just love colors.
Yes.
So I put a lot of bold colors in there right now.
Absolutely.
It's a journey, and so who knows what I'm going to do, you know, in the future. But right now, that's what's happening.
And it's something that makes you happy because it shows you're happy doing it.
Yes.
Yes. Now let's see if the director can show us some of your work, of some of your paintings. I have some photographs.
Sure.
And let's see if it's showing it. Yes, I think it is. So we have a blue atmosphere here. What is that about?
Well, that is about my love of Monet. And I was fortunate enough to go to his home in Giverny.
Right.
And that was last year. And I took pictures. And I was lucky enough to win awards for them and sold a variety of the pictures. And then I just have had Monet's colors in my life. I mean, when I think back of all the different products I've purchased, whether it's my bedspreads or Tiffany lamps, or they've always had some sort of water lilies in them. And I didn't realize that until I visited his house, that water lilies have always been in my life. And when I went to the lingerie this last year, I cried there. I went in and I saw his paintings, and it just was so overwhelming, and the just pure genius of it. And when I came back, it's beautiful colors and brush strokes. And so when I came back, all I wanted to do was that.
Right.
And I think that's, in a way, what I'm experiencing. I'm probably still living in my mind in that trip. So that's what that one means.
And I'm sure that would have happened to quite a few people, I'm sure. Let's see if you have other pictures. Yeah, we do have a very colorful one. What does that entail?
Well, that one
Is there a meaning there?
That one is called Primavera, or something like that. La
I can see
Primavera.
there's a lot of
and flowers and spring. And we used to live by this hill that had a lot of color. And so for me, it's a hillside of flowers.
Yeah, right. It's beautiful, very colorful. And I think we have another one. Let's see, what is this one?
That
looks
one,
like a field of poppies.
Country, country.
Yeah.
French countryside.
Yeah. It's very nice.
Thank you.
And do we have one more? No, I think that's about it. I think we have. No, that's about it. So basically, did you have, when you started your artwork, did you have a mentor or someone who was your idol, someone you followed, or you just painted out of the blue?
I started to paint out of the blue and quickly realized that I needed help.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate in that I've had very nice teachers, all sorts of styles, from very abstract to very tight painters to very prolific artists. And right now I take from 2 different teachers, and it's a constant learning journey for me.
Of course.
And as I produce work, I want to learn also, and so I'm always learning.
Of course. But was it easy at the start of your career? Was it easy to start as an artist, or I'm sure you found many difficulties?
I did not intend to have a career in art. That's what's so strange. I started. As my kids grew up, I always had different studios for them in the home, and it turned out that really they weren't interested. It was me who was interested in, in having all these studios and all these art classes, and then I ended up volunteering in art and for 8 years, and then I realized.
So subconsciously you were bringing yourself to become what you are today.
I think vicariously I was trying to go through my children, but at the end they're like, "Mom, stop volunteering. Can you do your own thing?" And then I'm, okay, I'll start taking art classes. And then it just mushroomed from there.
Yes.
I was invited to do a show for the Environmental Nature Center in Newport Beach. I'll never forget that because of the recycling of glass that I did. And I got the first taste of what it's like to create something, make someone happy as they pick it up and then they buy it. And I said, what?
Yes. You didn't think it was possible.
Didn't think it was possible. And then from there, it just mushroomed.
Yeah, yeah. So what is the main focus of your art? What do you feel drawn more towards? The painting, the photography, the glass art? What is the behind the scene? I mean, like when you touch some of these materials, what do you say to yourself?
Well, I like to think that the photography and the glass can be combined, and they have been. I have done many custom orders where I'll take a photograph and infuse it into glass.
And do you like to have orders that maybe have nothing to do with your art?
Yes, they involve a lot of communication because, as you know, people perceive things differently. And so the client and the artist need to be on the same page. So there needs to be dialogue.
Because I know some artists don't like to do that, you know. Like in history, it's happened that the most famous painters had, most of their work was ordered, was commissioned.
Right.
It wasn't what they really wanted to do.
Portraits.
But,
they did a lot of portraits, yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you like to have commissioned orders?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes, as long as it's, you know, interesting and I understand what they're looking for. Yes.
So there is another thing that, you know, when you make a piece, let's say a piece of glass, right, that you want to turn it into jewelry, but you had an idea in mind, but what you created was something totally unexpected. Has ever happened to you that?
In glass, it always has its own
So you had an image and then it didn't turn out that way, and then something else came out, like, and you liked it?
Usually, I think I can work with it. And yes, sometimes that happens. A lot of the glass that you see at my art shows or in galleries, it's been very, you know, very specific techniques, and so they're a little bit more complicated, so they need to be, you know, just right. So I would say that the pieces that are shown in galleries are, maybe that's not the case. But perhaps things that are more funky that I have, and people that have been to my things sometimes can see some funkiness in there. Those might be the ones that kind of have taken on a life of their own.
And have you ever made something, it has happened to me with many different things I do, that I make something that is so big, it's like, who's going to buy this? Something really huge, out of the ordinary, and that maybe that was the piece that you sold first. Has that ever happened?
Well, I think some of my jewelry, when I first started making jewelry, it was even more chunky than the ones I make now. And I thought, no one's going to wear this. But then sure enough, they did. And then I was asked to be in a gallery, at a contemporary arts gallery because of it. And yes, pieces sold. And so
Isn't that fun when that happens?
Absolutely, and it's taught me lots of things, and about people, and about what, you know, people like versus what I think they'll like, and there's something for everybody.
Yes, but you know, for me, I hear a lot of women saying, less is better, and it's like, to me, more is more, less is boring. Because that's the way it is. I like big things, big pieces. Can't find them, obviously. So I have to get used to whatever is out there. But I'm kind of wondering why artists don't make something that is not just wearable. They make pieces that anyone can wear. But they're artists. Why don't they make artistic jewelry? Like big pieces that they become the centerpiece on your body. You know, you don't need an elegant dress, you don't need an expensive dress, you just need that piece of jewelry that just makes a statement.
Well, I think that I have made pieces like that for gallery showings, and then they end up selling. So it was my intention of it just being, you know, like a Cleopatra necklace, or I called one Egyptian rainbow, and they end up selling.
So that's fun.
It is
right?
fun.
It's
It is
fun.
fun because
you have one original piece that nobody has.
a lot of my pieces are all original because the way the glass works, like this one versus that one, I can try to make it like that again, but it really will look different. So all my pieces are unique.
Right. So what is this? Is this glass?
So this is glass, yes.
And so this is glass as well?
So I don't make the settings, but I do make the glass. Yeah.
I'm not sure if the director, did you show this in a big shot? And I think he did. Okay, so this is very nice. I love this piece. Yeah. So will you ever, I have a very strange question. If you are to create something that it doesn't exist, nobody's ever made it, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. I would really love to combine all my art creations into one piece. So maybe some sort of photography collage painting with glass. It's been on my to-do list, so maybe I should do it and
well, maybe this is just the the beginning of your inspiration. Because I've always thought, if you know how to make so many things, photography, art with glass and paintings, it's like, what else can you create that has not been done? I mean, these are single pieces, right? Single. Painting is painting. Glass art is glass art. So they're single.
Okay.
What if you could combine them? I don't know. I'm just thinking.
But that's what people think. The thing is that they're not separate. They still require the concentration, the focus, the understanding of design, color, the rule of thirds, for goodness sakes, right? Things like that. However, if you take a look at this, I painted this on there with glass frit.
Right.
So I took my painting experience and I used it in making a glass sculpture. And so a lot of the times people want to categorize you or pigeonhole you into a glass artist.
Yes.
And no, I'm just a creative being that loves to create. And so I just have different tools in my tool belt.
Right. That's why I call the show the multifaceted, of Claudia Gray, because yes, you can absolutely do so much. Now we have very few minutes, and if you have briefly a word to say to young people who want to become artists, what would that be?
Well, I have said this many times to my students. I actually have taught art in quite a few different venues. And what I tell them is, do not be afraid to make mistakes and forget perfectionism. They, a lot of the times, budding artists want to just do it just right. Oh my gosh, just right. And you know what? You lose the fun, you lose the inspiration. Just have fun.
Totally agree. Absolutely,
and
totally agree.
A lot of the times they just need to paint or to work with glass over and over for many hours. It's like a tennis game. You get better as you go.
Absolutely. Experience. Well, we are down to the last few minutes, so I would have to say goodbye to everyone. And first of all, I want to thank you for being here tonight. And thanks for the crews for helping out making this great show. And I hope to see you a lot more in the next future.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And as I always say, use colors. You will not regret it. Your life will vibrate in colors. A big kiss to everyone. Peace, love.